today we are going to be doing some pork chops. Let's try that again. Guess my wife wants to do some pork chops for dinner tonight, and I thought I'd do a little video on it to show you how I'm going to do the pork chops. So put on your seatbelt and let's jump into it. Alright, I just got these pork chops out of the fridge. Took them out of the freezer last night, and they've been sitting in the fridge, thawing out. But what we're going to do is we're going to put these in a pan first thing, and we're just going to salt and pepper them and let them sit out here for about a half an hour just to get them down to about room temperature. So we'll just go ahead and do that. Now, I'm not going to be cooking them in this pan. We're actually going to do it on the stovetops today, but for now we're just going to salt and pepper them and let them get up to room temperature. The salt is going to help tenderize it a bit and give her some, give her some flavor in the long run. These do have a little bit of fat on them, but generally these are pretty lean, and so the salt's really going to help with the flavor in these. So here we go. Now I'm just going to let these sit for half an hour. Meanwhile, we can do, make our rub, make our seasoning, stuff like that. So I've got this little handy spoon here that's adjustable. From 1 tablespoon, I can push it up like this to down to 1 teaspoon. So we're going to go ahead and make it 1 tablespoon so we get some flour. And the flour is mostly good for, it makes a nice little crust. Seasonable crust, so it helps with that. Next will be some chili powder, and we'll just need like a teaspoon of that. And just use whatever's handy. And I do this over the bowl, so if I spill any extra, of course, it just lands in the bowl, and a little extra is not going to hurt anything. And then garlic powder, another teaspoon of that. Alright, next we'll do some onion powder, and I got some clumps in there. What I usually do is just shake it up real good and break those clumps up. And these come out these little holes here anyway. And we want to do about a teaspoon of that. And if you get some clumps that come out, it's not a big deal. You can just wash them with a fork when you go to mix this up later on. Paprika. And let's do about a half a teaspoon of that. So I'll just kind of eyeball about a half a teaspoon here. Okay, and we're going to do 1 teaspoon of black pepper. I'm sorry, half a teaspoon of black pepper. Grab a fork here and kind of just mix it up and make sure there aren't any crumps in there. Alright, it's been about a half an hour, and we're just going to pat these dry with a paper towel and then put the rub on there. Sometimes what I like to do when I put the rub on is just get a big ziploc baggie and just throw them in there after I get them all dried off. And just throw the seasoning in there, give them a good shake, but I'm out of baggies, so we're just going to do it the old-fashioned way with our hands. So yeah, because of the salt, they sweat a little bit. Just going to sprinkle on one side. And we're actually just going to, with our thumbs and fingers and whatnot, we're just going to go ahead and rub them in there. So get all that goodness in there. Alright, then we're going to flip them over and do the same thing to their side. Alright, next we're just going to get the pan warmed up here, so we're just going to put this on medium heat for 4 or 5 minutes or something like that, and we're going to add some oil. Whatever kind of cooking oil you like to use. Peanut oil would be fine. Olive oil will be fine, any kind of oil, just so, it doesn't stick to the pan too well. And so yeah, we'll give her, like I said, 3 or 4 minutes and let that warm up just a little bit. A little trick I learned so you know when the oil is good, is warm enough, is you get a wooden chopstick, or in this case, wooden spoon, and if you stick the handle in the oil and it bubbles up around there at the very base of it, then it's ready. Here, I just started it, so it's not doing anything, so it's definitely not ready. Alright, here we are about 2 minutes, 3 minutes later, and you can see the oil's moving really fast now. I did speed it up, the temperature a little bit to medium high, and we'll give it the old wooden spoon test here. I don't know if you can see that, but you see all those bubbles bubbling up at the base of my spoon, my wooden spoon. She's ready. Alright, so I'm going to throw my pork chops just right on in there. What we're going to do is just sear one side for about 2 or 3 minutes. About 2 or 3 minutes. Alright, that should be good and seared. I've got some tongs here. They're going to be hot. So, and when I flip these, grab if there's any fatty side or whatever, I was going to kind of sear those for about 30 seconds or so. Just get those a little bit browned up. Alright, we got a nice sear on that side. Hey, you shush! We got a nice sear on that side, so I'm going to turn the temperature down to low to maybe like 1, and put the lid on. Between, 6 and 18 minutes. I guess basically what you want to do is get the internal temperature up to about 145 is the main goal. So if we can get it up to like 140, 135, that would be ideal, and then we can set these on a clean plate and wrap them with aluminum foil, and the internal juices will keep cooking it up to the temperature of the magical number of 145. So we'll just check it periodically. We'll check it after about 6 minutes. We'll check it after about 9 minutes. We'll check it after, every 3 minutes up till it gets to about 135, 140, and yeah, like I said, then after that we'll put it on a clean plate and wrap it in aluminum foil for another 5 minutes, and that should do the trick. Alright, so it's been about 8 minutes. I'm going to check the thickest one. I'll stick my thermometer in there. So 134, 145, ooh, 150. Okay, she's definitely done. Maybe I stuck it down too far, I'm not sure. I'm going to go about halfway through there. Okay, there's 140, 141. Okay, so we're right about where we want to be here. So I'm going to grab a clean plate here, and I'm just going to set these bad boys right on here, and I'm going to grab some aluminum foil and cover them up. Alright, so I just put some aluminum foil over here. And it doesn't have to be real tight or anything, just kind of loosely. And I'm just going to set them aside for now, because we are going to continue to work with this. Alright? Okay, so we're still at low, so I want to bring this back up to medium high. So yeah, it's about medium high right there. Okay, and we're going to start adding some stuff. So we want to do some chicken broth. I don't actually have chicken broth. I'm just going to have to work with this. It's just chicken flavored soup base. So I'll use probably a teaspoon of this. Get my teaspoon here. There we go. And I'll have to add about a cup of water to go with that. Okay, and here's a cup of water. 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. I might have some of that, but I got some of this red wine vinegar stuff I want to try out. Just a little experimentation, see how this is. So, alright, and finally, I'm going to do a 1 teaspoon of honey. I'm just going to eyeball this one because I don't want to have to scrape honey off my stuff here. Ooh. Might have to pop the cap on this one. It might be a little bit more than a teaspoon, but we'll make it happen. And we'll do a teaspoon of brown sugar as well. Okay, and then we've got our wooden spoon that we used earlier. Get that honey off my finger there. And we're just going to scrape up anything that's left from the pork chop off the bottom and bring this to a simmer. And it smells really good. You know, if you don't want to use brown sugar, you can just use 2 teaspoons of honey, or if you don't want to use honey, you can use 2 teaspoons of brown sugar. You know, just experiment a little bit, whatever you want to use there. And same with the rub too. You know, if there's something that you want to add in the rub, you know, feel free to add some spices, some cayenne pepper or something like that. Absolutely fine. Whatever you want to, whatever your likings are. Now it looks like we're getting a good little simmer here. We probably want to get about half of that gone though, so we're going to boil this up just a little bit here. Alright, so I've had this simmering for a while now, and all that water is all boiled out. I have a tablespoon of butter here. And I'm going to turn the heat completely off. Tongs here, and we'll just put these slide that way back in here. And if you wanted to, you could probably make little slits into the chops to let some of the base that we made soak up, but I'm not going to do that this time. Alright. All that stuff in there. I'm just going to put the lid on and let that sit for about 5 minutes. Alright, it's been about 5 minutes. I tried to say this earlier, but it's probably, you can probably spoon up some of the juices on top here. These tops. Yeah, you might want to taste this too. You know, so if there's something you want to add, you know, a little more honey, brown sugar, salt, whatever. Perfect, right where it's at. All right, so it's been sitting here for about 5 minutes, and if you didn't make slits in your pork chops, you just kind of spoon on some of the juices. And you could have done that, you know, right when you slide them in, you can just kind of spoon it up like so. And then you can give the juice a little bit of taste as well. Like good. But if it needed more brown sugar or honey or anything like that, then certainly add it now. Let it simmer for a little while longer. But I'm going to throw some parsley on there. About 2 tablespoons for about all this. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. Mostly for looks. Alright. Yeah, I'm just going to grab this thick guy right here and slap that on my plate. Lid back on. Cut a piece here and see what she's like. Oh, look at how juicy that is. Perfect.
Let's do that for the camera.
Alright. So that was my pork chops there. Thanks for hanging out if you're still around this long. Appreciate it. And see you next time. Sauce is pretty darn good.